Okay, hello, good morning, happy Tuesday. Whatalofa atu il whawhakaanga mana mai mamai ane atunuu. Fesola'I Aleni TV. I whapitoa le whatalofa. A pleasant welcome to my foundation law students for this lecture on this Tuesday, as we are still continuing with the shutdown of the campus because of health safety. So we will continue with our lectures on TV for this week. It is yet to be determined po afeto whai tātou face-to-face lectures, but let us continue whaongane a manoa e pei o na iai ia le awaunanga a le televise a le Universite au Samoa. A le whai al tātou polo kalame whaalongo le mai students, listen. Nawa uman whaino atu lungo le Moodle, la fo uman circulate taku le emaili. All your activities, all your tutorial exercises, you can send through email or Moodle. As for the assignment, you have to submit your assignment by way of hard copy. Nawa whaamanino atu, and due in this Friday, the 22nd, ma o le whainga o fia lea. O le aso whareile, i le lua, le aso whareile vai aso nei, o luma o le gate al NUS, le main gate, o la iei le pusa e awa assignments mo students i upolu nei. Just drop off your assignment, pe iesi si o lau aiga sa uia pia, drop off lau assignment, ia mai le iwa le tae au e o le whai le fiafi. O sa vai, mo moli lau assignment in official NUS i le maketi sa le longa ia o inai wha mau pupuai ia o na maua mai ei leo lau assignment ia tau mo lona tongi ina. So again, auanga I send mai lau assignment by email. Listen, mamatau mai. All your other activities you can do so, send it by email or send it through Moodle. For the assignment led due on Friday, do not email me. You have to print it out in hard copy. Vaile le pusale lumba gate, main gate al NUS on Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Ia e au ma ia le assignment. Just drop it in le pusa. Au e ke sau kukongo le campus o le whasa. O ai o lo ainga, the box will be there. Just drop the assignment. Ia o na o pikia le I le fiafi ia whaasolo le makaina whapena foi la sa vai o le asfareile ia ave lau assignment I le ofisa la ia le au whaingaruenga le NUS I le official NUS dai le makeki ia o inai whamau popo iai ia tātou assignments. I hope o kou malama awa iei fo isi ki nganga whaku awal send mai I le email I send mai ia. O la foi lau ke le openinga o ke le maka inga, it has to come in a form of hard copy. So please listen and comply with the instructions. Today's topic will be the basic requirements for the functioning of the courts. I'll just recap on last week's lecture. Le topic, the court and its functions and the court processes. Lenkako discussing the adversarial system as opposed to the inquisitorial system. Adversarial system is the system whereby lawyers represent parties, they argue the law, they present the evidence, they call witnesses, they also present and submit affidavits, blah, blah, blah. And they argue it before a judge sitting alone, and then the judge will decide. That is adversarial system. Inquisitorial system. Yeah, or the system gale practice il kakolan entitled court. That system, it is a panel of judges, not a judge sitting alone. It is a panel of judges. It can be 3, it can be 5. And they investigate. It's an investigative system whereby a panel of judges will investigate the parties involved. And upon the result of their investigation, they will decide the case. That is inquisitorial system, lea sa kako tiskasinga I le vai aso na te anei. Manatua, adversarial system is practiced in all other courts, whereas inquisitorial system is practiced in the Land and Titles Court only. Then we also whamalama what is civil and what is criminal. Wa manino foi ngā mea pe ono whamalama aku leo koe whamanatu atu. Civil matters is to do with claim of rights. O wai at tau, o wa fianga whaai at tau, whaale whaavae, po pui pui ale whaavae, ia matula whono claim of rights, ia ta aupu tau civil matters ngā I whainga whaapsinonga. Criminal matters is simply in violation of the Crimes Act 2013. A mau se kaimi alu e lungo le Google, type in Pakli Samoa, vaai ia le whaasolonga o tūla whono nei lalo Crimes Act 2013 o tūla whono umana lewai o whaamaui nei so se soli tūla whono le nā wai e te tonu o le tūla whono o soli ngā tūla whono. Ia lea whaisa tātou whātalanoai nei la sanga whātino o le plaintiff I civil matters o ia lea he or she initiates a course of action by filing a statement of claim with the registrar of the courts. Step 1 lena. Ia step 2 can kaunga serve the other party, serve the other side. Statement of claim is a statement by the plaintiff outlining the claim against the defendant. So a statement of claim must be served to the defendant or the other party, and then the other party will respond by filing a statement of defense with the registrar of the courts. Purposely, a dispute taile claim a le plaintiff. Ia ka whaasolo mai lola ia le step 4, ngā iele mele kako discussing on interlocutory order, an order by the court that refrains all parties from doing further actions until the case is decided. Ia whaasolo mai lola ia I le hearing, makua civil matters, o le hearing, or a trial in criminal matters. And then we come to the court hearing and the decision by the court and also the enforcement of the decision. Mangakua, every decision of the court becomes law. Maumangaku whaia, e le whaia e le whaamsinonga ni tūla whono. That is the function of Parliament. However, in the legal system, in the judicial system, every decision of the court is law. It becomes law. E a vea mavaenga o le tūla whono so o se whai unga a le whaamasinonga. That was topic 4, how the court operates. Now come to this topic, this week, topic 5. Lela kako discussinga the basic requirements for the functioning of the courts. This topic will identify and discuss requirements imposed by written constitution, statutes, and common law about how court must conduct themselves or what they must do when they are hearing particular cases. Si whamarino mo moran belea. Written constitution, statutes, and common law, they are all law. Wa umanga ko whaia, the highest law and constitution, statutes. Statute is also law. Mankuan topic 1, lenga ko whaia, legislation, they are laws passed by Parliament, or known as acts of Parliament. They are also known as statutes. They are also known as ordinances, but they are all laws made and passed by Parliament. So it's tau ane manatua la le mena. O mai la, in basic requirements for the functioning of the courts and lua requirements. There are two requirements or basic requirements. Number one, known as statutory requirement. Number one, all the statutory requirements for the functioning of the courts. And then we also have common law requirements for the functioning of the courts. Those are the two main requirements fa'ale tūla whono e function ai le whaapasinonga. Mua statutory, ia lua o le common law. What does it mean by statutory requirement? Or the root word statute. What is statute? Statute is law. Well, the statutory requirement la leo fai mai ai ia le tātou topic today. Statutory requirement meaning ole tūla whono ole whawai. Ua whatonu mai ai le whatinonga o ngā nuenga le whapasinonga. Pe whapewhea o na whatino o na function le court. I tūlanga ia waila iai. Ole e whaawai i le vaenga iwa o le whaawai. Article 9 of the Constitution of Samoa, right to a fair trial. In the determination of his or her civil rights and obligations or of any charge against him for any offense, every person is entitled to a fair and public hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial tribunal established under the law. Ole tula whono leo le vaenga iwa. Vaenga iwa le whawai. Le whawai mai ai le statutory requirement e function ai le court. Vai, naku e kango bold ma underline naku le fair. Public hearing. Independent and impartial tribunal. Ia ma le lona wha. Established under the law. So o I lewa whakaoko mai ai e le whawai. How the court should function. Le whataoto mai ai I e le whawai. Le whaatinonga o ngā nuenga whaapasinonga. A whai o le statutory requirement. Po le whawai o lona winga. O le tūla whono lewa polo I nai le whaapasinonga. La tō te whaatino ai I a ngā nuenga le whaapasinonga. Which simply means e le sa o loto le whaapasinonga e whai ai lākou ia lākou mea. Pe whai ai lākou how they function. E le tu sa o loto mai e le tūla whono le whaapasinonga e pule lātou le ai. E lima taita ina le whaapasinonga e le tūla whono. Pei la le article 9 leo le Constitution. Le whawai mai ai le statutory requirement. Le la koe whekawaku. Right to a fair trial in the determination of his or her civil rights and obligations of any charge against him for any offense, every person is entitled to a fair public hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial tribunal established under law. Le whanau kanga kumai le whasamoa lea se ia e malama mai, sanga malama mai. Samoan version of the Constitution, Article 9, vaenga iwa le whawai. Ai a te tau I le whaapasinonga ma le tonu. E whaitawina la whapea, I le whaatatawina o ai a te tau a le tangata, I lo la vā ma le tasi tangata whapea tiu te tau ave po se isi mo lianga e whasanga ia te ia, ona o se soli ngā tūla whono, ua tōwhusia tangata taito tasi uma ma le tūlanga te tau. E whaafafonga I nai ma le whalawa I tele, I te tonu o se teimi fuafuaina te tau, e se whaapasinonga tūtoa tasi, ma le whai tu au, na whaatuina e le tulafono. Ia, auanga I confuse lo mafofau lela koe foi koe whaamanamalama. O lona winga, the Constitution and statutory requirements e wha lava vaenga tāua leo e oto mai I mo mua impartiality. Vai ngaku kango underline ngaku le independent and impartial. So the first statutory requirement or impartiality. The second statutory requirement is fair or fairness. And the third statutory requirement, openness. And the fourth statutory requirement, or competent jurisdiction. Lona whasa moa leo kam whaia koe lalo pe on tuina mai ai na vangan whaamai. O mana onga whaale tūla whono I le whaatinoina o ngā nuenga le whaamsinonga mua impartial, tūtoa tasi, male le whai tu au le whaamsinonga. Fairness, o tūlanga e te tau ai. Openness, whaafafongaina male whaalawa I tele. Ia male wha competent jurisdiction, whaamsinonga o whaatuina e le tūla whono. So, o le whasamoa leo o le statutory requirement, Article 9, leo o whaamanino atu I le whasamoa ia e malamalama tili ai. So those are the statutory requirements ala kako discuss whasolo aku iai, but just to give you an idea, ponala le mea o le common law requirement. Common law requirements, mua or the rule against bias or principle of natural justice. Rules against bias, ia le fai tu au whaamsino. Lua o le fairness, ia tutusa o na whaatino le auaunanga. Openness, e matatala le whaamsinonga mo so stangata. Ia malero na wha, correct application of the law, ia sao o na whaawinga le tulafono. Ia la kako whaso solo ama whaamanino a tili ia vaenga, I le me ese ai, ia le statutory requirements, ia ma le common law requirements. Okay, kako se mai la I le statutory requirements. These are the requirements on the functioning of the courts. Ea fiai, whawai, whaigo tulafono, ia matulanga I te tau o na whaatino ai ngā luenga a le whaamasinonga. How the courts must operate or carry out their judicial functions within limits defined by established principles, practices, and procedures. Ia manatua le nei mea toi whamanatua tu students, e le tu sa o loto le whaamasinonga. E le whapea e sa o loto o na lato whatino. O ali ima te mai tai whaamasino e filifilia whaare tu la fono. E tō fia fo I lalo le tulafono, o ala tō wanga waa fo I atusa ma le tulafono. Whaatinonga o ala tō whai unga ma ngā luenga, e ao fo I o na muri tai I le tulafono. They are obligated to follow the law, and their decisions must be based on law and how the court functions. Le lafe mai e statutory requirements. O le whaatinonga leo ngā luenga le whaamsinonga e te tau o na whaatino ai. Mua, o le impartiality. What is impartiality? Impartiality, tuto tasi. Ia tuto tasi le whaamsinonga. Ia le whai tu au le whaamsinonga. Ia whai e tusa o le tulafono, whai unga a le whaamsinonga. Ia atangia I ngā luenga ma le whaatinonga o tiute o whaamsino le muli ta ia o le tulafono. mana tua fo'i le kako assignment lea vakuai le fesili o ai fo'i e ona le phrase not only justice must be done but seen to be done o le winga lea ia va'ai ai fa'amasino o latou faia o latou tiu te tusa ma le tulafono ua filifilia ai i latou e avea ma fa'amasino. So statutory requirement mua lava ia tuto'atasi ia le fa'aitu'au le fa'amasinoga. The court must be impartial. O leisi upu e mawhai ke whaamakala ai, the court must be neutral. Ia launga tasia matutusa o na whaatino le whaia o tiuto le whaamasino e tusa o le tūlafono launga tasia itu o le whaamasinonga. O le emphasis a ia leo lo au mai e le Article 9 o le Constitution, independent and impartial tribunal. E le mawhai, o le upumo ia lea, noted down, e le mawhai o na miotonu se whaai unga pe a le impartial, independent, ma neutral whaamasinonga. Note that down. There can never be a lawful decision by the courts pe a whai e le follow with judges le law, comply with the law, interpret the law according to law. O nā tangia leo le impartiality, independence, ma le neutrality o le whaamasinonga. Nara leo le whaamamafa le au mai I au tau mataunia. Le au mai ai, the court must be independent and impartial. Impartiality, that's the first statutory requirement. Le au mai le whaavai, ia whaatino le whaamasinonga, whereby the courts must follow. Le ai se whai unga a miotonu pe a le tutotasi le whaamasinonga. E le mawhai o le whaapea e a miotonu se whai unga pe a whai e le o sao o na whaatino e tusa o le me le whai mai ai ia le whaavai. The court must be independent and impartial. But ia e mataua le me lea students, no decision e sao. No decision e a miotonu. No decision will be lawful. Ale whaamasinonga, pe a whai e le impartial, le independent, le neutral, ia le whaamasinonga. Ia let's say, ia whaamasino. Wai whapewheo le tatu whape a miotonu le whaamasinoga pe a whai o au le whaamasino, ai mōnia mai le kamano kua whinge, I should not sit. A wai a tangi ale masalomia o le impartiality. O le tutotasi, ma le independent, impartial and neutral. Ia mawhai o na waaia e le whaamasinonga e le whaatinoina. E le gato suenga o bata upu, o iloilonga o bata upu, a o le tuuina mai o le whai unga. A lawful decision will always come I le sao e tusa ma le tulafono pe a whai e whaatinoina le statutory requirement mua lava lea impartiality. The court must be neutral, the court must be impartial, judges must be independent. That is impartiality. So we come to the second statutory requirement, fairness, meaning of fair hearing, regardless of whether the written constitution themselves spell out in detail what is required to constitute a fair hearing. It seems that the courts will normally assume that a fair hearing is one that is in accordance with the common law principle of natural justice. The purpose of this requirement of fairness as imposed by the Constitution is to ensure that a court has all the material before it that is necessary to ensure that a decision as to the legal rights and obligations of the parties is made in accordance with their merits. What is fairness? Fairness is justice. O le whai o le mea sao, o le whai o le mea sili o le tonu. That is fairness. Lefe mai ai, o mea te tau o na muli tai ai, and determine ai on merits. Whinaunga o tula fono, mau tu inatu. Ai le o le whauina I mawhauwhau o le whamasino, le ai. It has to go with the merits and determine the fairness. And what is fairness or justice? What is justice or the tonu? People go to court to seek justice. The question is, e sa o le gābau, o le whamisinonga e maua mai e la mi tonu. E se mawhauwhaunga, e se foi tari tonunga scholars. Hei foi isi whai mai e le maua mai le whamisinonga la mi tonu. O ngai se sere mawhauwhaunga le people go to court to seek justice. A o sa o ai a o le whamitalaina. Why do people go to court, or the kali? They go to court to seek what the law says. The law le interpret the judiciary. Whatever the law says, pe sao pe le sao, pe tonu pe le tonu, judges are obligated to follow the law. It's what the law says. That's the function of the judiciary. They interpret the law. O hapata upu e watu, mo lianga al fasio tangata, o mata upu whawhamsinonga whanua maswafa, o claim si me kau contract, me umana, avel whamsinonga. The court will seek to interpret the law according to law. O maua mai. O le function ngā al whamisinonga. Nā tau te whauinga le tū la whono. O le alawa le me laiwhai mai ele tū la whono, I le sila a le whamisino, o le taunu unga whole nā le matau. Pe sao isi e le sao isi, ia whai mai fo isi o le amiu tonu le ai. Whatever the law says, that is justice. Because e o tātou le whamsinonga, o whete e na inga o tangata I tua mai o le whamsinonga. E alanga o le whamsinonga, se I whamakala mai la ma whauinga mai la le whamsinonga, ia le tūla whono. And they are obligated to follow the law. And they will deliver their decision according to law. Le winga le tala, that's fairness. So se whai unga e whai e tusa ma le tūla whono, pe fia ia isi, pe le fia ia isi, o le whai unga e tusa ma le tūla whono, law that is interpreted by the court according to law, o le whamisinonga saona. That's the best decision, because judges are obligated, they must follow the law and interpret the law according to law. So that is fairness. So statutory requirement mua impartiality. Ia o mai loe le ronda lua o le fairness. Ia so o mai lea ma third statutory requirement, o le openness, meaning and purpose of openness. This requirement basically means that where possible, the proceedings of a court must be open to the public. It is envisaged that public scrutiny of the functioning of the courts will ensure that decisions as to the legal rights and obligations are made in an environment or setting that is likely to discourage interference with the independent, impartial, and fair operation of the courts, and help to ensure that decisions about people's rights and obligations are made in accordance with their legal merits. Openness. A koe vai kua i le whamatalanga o le Article 9 of the Constitution. Every person is entitled to a fair and public hearing. Now, o kango underline aku le public hearing. Le whawai mai ai I le statutory requirement there o le openness. So, in simplicity, openness means the court must be open to the public, or the court is always open to the public. O le winga, o lea mau, whai mai ai ia le vaiga iwa o le whawai. O le winga lea o le whaamsinonga tonu. E le whapu mo'o, ia pe whai kua foi lea, pe na o se vaenga o tangata. It is always a public issue. Ia whianga wha le whaamsinonga, mai ta tala I tangata lautele. It is always open to the public. The court must be open to the public at any time. So se whaamsinonga whai, e ta tala o tatu wai a tauia. Tātou te oe whiriwhiri po whera whaamsinonga te whia whaalongo ai. Ai le whapefo e whaamalo sia tātou ona o e whaalongolongo le whaamsinonga. O le winga o le statutory requirement o le openness. The court is open to the public. O lona tāua. E tāua foi lea mōri mawinai ngā nuenga le whaamsinonga. E tāua foi lea e mawhai ai o na whemoni mawai, e ala ia a whianga, ia whatasi ai maritu ina mai o whai unga, malo tātou I loa ai, o ngā nuenga whaatino, ale whaamsinonga e le ai, e kākou ke le su e pe whisiringia. E awa noa o na tātou awai e mata, whalongolongo, ai le mawhai o na whapea, e whaamalo sia o na tātou awai, ai o lo te tala le awa noa, tu ina mai le whaamai I le statutory requirement lo na tolu. Every court is open to the public. Ai, e iei fo'i whaamasinonga, e le mawhai o na te tala I le public, o mai ngala ia mo le sinafia, ai mai se outou le whanau I outou māla malama, e mafua o na iei whaamasinonga tāua, e le te tau o na awhia ai, pe a whai ia le whaanongolongo a tangata lautele, o na o manunga po whaamsinonga a awhia ai, whanau teine, ia po tamaiti la iti, o le a silafia le whaamsinonga, e silafia le whaamsinonga, o le exception le na, it's an exception, e whai ai le whai unga le whaamsinonga, o le a le te tāla, it won't be open to the public, le case, e manu o nai whanauiti a whia, ia o nai whanau o le aleanga, me tau langaina o lātou ingoa, e a vea foi maa whianga o lātou maa fawfau, lea lai a lai o na closed session, ia le whaamsinonga, a wale open to the public. But at the outset, according to the law, e ta tala le whaamsinonga I so o se tangata. That is the third statutory requirement. Does that mean the public is forced to attend to the court? What do you think? O le kani le ai? A o loo iai, Ia lea fo ia vanoa wharetu la fono that we can go listen to the court, moli mau, whanongolongo. Ai iai fo i tu la fono o whamsinonga. E iai fo i tu la fono o whamsinonga e tau sia. Yes, it is open to the public. And there are also court rules. Ai aga in whamsinonga. Ia, whai whanelei la malama. E le whapea lou fo i mai ai le maumanga. Malou ia e sa oe alusa o le whaamsinonga. Le ai e le kalia o i kongo le whaamsinonga. You have to wear the proper attire and comply to the court rules. But it remains. The court is open to the public. A whai lai e laku se fesili o le assignment 3. Would you require permission from the CEO of the courts to enter the courts to research the processes in the courts as a foundation law student? You can attend to any time e makuel kako fesili, o i kaile whaamsinonga e whanongolongo, o i tein whaamsinonga wa aile case lea, o i kei pe whaafenga whaatino le whaamsino, i ala asanga pe ao ina te tee pe ioi monianga mea uma whapena. Again, the court is open to the public. That is the third statutory requirement. Then we come to the fourth statutory requirement. Competent jurisdiction. Competent jurisdiction. This basically means that a decision of a court must be authorized by law. This does not mean that the laws specify what decision of a court must be. Instead, it means that the law must authorize two matters connected with the exercise of the court jurisdictions. Number one, the kinds of matters must be submitted for the courts to determine. And number two, the kinds of orders the court may make. Competent jurisdiction. Kagakusi lalo. In simplicity, it simply means the right court must hear the right case. Competent jurisdiction. The right court must hear the right case. Peo whakaikainga, a whai, a married couple ua whia divorce, whera kore whai e. O the Supreme Court. E le whai e le land entitles court. The competent jurisdiction for divorce matters will be Supreme Court. E le mawhainga whaia i le land entitles court. Another classic example kilo iai i le competent jurisdiction. A whai wanga oi le sefulu ka la. O whera le whamsinonga e kau whai e. The most competent jurisdiction e whai ai. On district court, a wā sa whanga tupela i titia i a po le whamsino sa moa fo. Ai a whai o le ngaoi e lima sefulu afe tāla. E le mawhai langa whaia i le whamsinonga whanua maswafa wai le whai ai. E le mawhai whainga whaia i le whamsinonga whai tūmalo onga o mata upe sini aku ma le sefulu afe e whai lunga le Supreme. So a whai e se le whamsinonga e whai ai o ngai loa la ia wa incompetent le jurisdiction e le o sao le jurisdiction. So that brings me to that explanation of Fayakua. The right court must hear the right case. He gave me sasi ai. Lea leina tupu me foi o le case wa avaku in the district court. My district court le ai ave ilunga le Supreme. Ye foi isi gave me avaku cases I lunga le Supreme. My Supreme le ai koe ave ilalo. So inga ia competent the jurisdiction. Inga ia sao le whaapasinonga e whawhonga I lea mata upu ma lea mata upu o le winga ngā competent jurisdiction. The right court must hear the right case. E lea ia sa mata upu tau whaapasinonga whanua masuafa e whai e sisi mea. E whai lava I le whaapasinonga whanua masuafa. That's the competent and most proper jurisdiction. So se mea kau ele whananga nuu, so se mea tau suafa matai, o le competent jurisdiction, o le right court e hia inga mea ngā, o le land and titles court. And then, o isi mata upu, mea tau son ngā tūla whono, o le ngaoi lua afe ka la, kele inga whaile, I le district court. O son ngā tūla whono e kele aku o ka whaasalanga, whaafare pui pui, ia whakasi ma whaasalanga tau tupe o lunga lai le Supreme Court. Pei whanau whakaika inga le vai kaimi o whaamsinonga o whainga palota. E le whai ai seisi court. O lunga le Supreme Court, laua iei la tau whaamsino la tau te whawhonga ina ma ta upuna e le whai ai seisi whaamsinonga. Because that is the competent jurisdiction o le whaapasinonga le te tau wai o na lātou whaatino whai unga whai. Le wingaraga o le competent jurisdiction must be established by law. Koe sina fo iai nua koe makamaka mai a. Independent and impartial tribunal established under the law. E le mawhai na whai se whaapasinonga ele I whaavaea whaale tūla whono. Let's recap. Supreme Court was established under Article 65 of the Constitution. It was established under law. Article 73 established a Court of Appeal, which is the highest court of the land. So, Court of Appeal is established by law. Article 78 of the Constitution, subordinate court, under the District Court Act 1969, le Yerkako District Court, Whaamsinonga whai tūmalo, established by law. Ye whankako court le o le Whaamsino Fesola'I, established by law. Le whokako whaasolo aku le youth court, ia whakasi ma le family court, all those courts, they must be established by law. A whaiele established by law, incompetent. It will not be a competent jurisdiction e whawhongaina ma tā upu tau whaamasinonga. So now, we're malamalabala. The 4 statutory requirements, alo whata oto mai e le vaenga iwa o le whaavae, mō ngā luenga whatino o le whaamsinonga mō mua, impartiality, ia tūto o tasi le whaamsinonga. Lua, te tau wai, fairness, the court must be fair. Tolu, open to the public, openness, ia ma le wha o le competent jurisdiction. So, this is one thing e kau foi o ngai malama iai. Vai ngai kako notes. Consequently, a court must not decide a matter that is not authorized by law to be submitted to it, nor it must make an order that it was not authorized to make. And if it does, its decision is not authorized. Mela ngau whamatala mo muatu. A court must not decide a matter that is not authorized by law to be submitted to it. E le ka kauanga whaia e whaamsinonga se mata upu, e le anga waa ona ia whai ai se whai unga. Pei o le whaataita inga. Mai le whaamsinonga whangua maswafa. A whai o se mata upu e winga ia solo ia se matai. Mata upu na lau talo sanga iai e tu uma ia solo ia le matai. A whai o mata upu na lau talo sanga atu le whaamsinonga. Pau fo na le malosi e o iai le whaamsinonga. O le solo ia po le whaonga le matai. They are not authorized. E whinau a inga le solo ia po le whaonga. A e tofi mai a lātou, suafa e matai, ina matai le whina wai. No, they are not authorized to do so. A whai lava o le whinaunga le whaamsinonga whanua ma suafa, solo ia le matai na whaia. O ne sori tū la whono. Pau alga me o i ene malosi o whaamsinonga suasue. Pe sa o sori kū la whongo o ka whai whaamsinonga. Pe sa o le o sasuni. Ia o ne solo ia lea. Pe whaananga ina. Ai le whapea, e wangwa mai, le whai unga le whaamsinonga, ma le pūra le whaamsinonga, ua kofi ai, o e kakausia le ai, leanga e le italo sangaina. It was not petitioned. So, e le whapea tu sau noa le whaamsinonga, I mea la tau te whaia e au noa, ia marisi la lea whateita inga, pēla le whaamsinonga so ngā tū la whono. A whai mai le tū la whono, o le whaasalanga, o le whasi tangata, e lua kausanga le whanpuipui. Ai au mai lei unga le whaamsino, a le li whaamsino, po tamai tei whaamsino, wa se furu wha kausanga le whanpuipui, ua le tusa ma le tū la whono. Ai sea, awa, the judges must follow the law. What the law says, they follow. What the law clarifies, they must do. Ai le whapea, e sa o loto a lātou, I a lātou whai unga whai pe anu whai atu pea, o a lātou whai unga e lima taita ina e le tūla whono. Decisions of the court, guided by law, and must follow the law. So, e le authorize le whaamasinonga, e whaia mea e le o tālo sangaina. E le ma whai whai ona tu ina mai se whai unga, po se polo inga le whaamasinonga, I mea e le te tau o na tuuina mai ai. Awa a whai e tuuina mai, ia lefe mai, its decision is not authorized, meaning it's not authorized by law. O le whatau tonga le nā, le mafuai, le tau sisia o le four statutory requirement. Impartiality, fairness, openness, ia ma le competent jurisdiction. I le tali tonunga foina, a whai e tau sisia. Whai unga sa foina, o whai unga foina e tusa ma le tūla fono. Regardless, pe tātou te fia iai, pe le ai. Ia mana tua foi, it's common, it's general. So se tangata e whaia ina pe pa uus whaamsinonga, ia e whai mai ai e le o sa al whai. A o ngā nuenga le whaamsinonga, e whaata oto mai lava e le tūla fono. Lela ia le far statutory requirements ia. O isi e vaere taua e te tau o na function ai. That is how the court must function. That is why it's known as statutory requirement, which judges must follow. And judges must comply. Again, impartiality, fairness, openness, ia ma le competent jurisdiction, the right court must hear the right case. The courts are authorized by law only, and they must follow the law because they are guided by law and must interpret according to law. Okay, we'll talk more on common law requirement next lecture on Thursday, but kanga kusi lalo for now, e ke mafau fau ye ma mai kako notes. Common law requirements. Mua rule against bias. Rule against bias, kangola i e bracket ai au kafa natural justice. The first common law requirement to the functioning of the courts, number one, rule against bias, bracket ai natural justice. Lua o le fairness. Lua o le fairness. Kolu o le openness. Koe sau e fwoi openness. Ia ma le wha correct application of the law. Correct application of the law. Those are the 4 common law requirements. Now, rule against bias, principle of natural justice, lua, fairness, kolu, openness, ia malfa, correct application of the law. We will discuss that in le asotofi, i le siakako lecture from 12 to 1. Before we finish, reminding you students, your activities, tutorial, send it by email or Moodle. Assignment, do not send by email. I am due this coming Friday, the 22nd. Upolu student, drop in main gate, don't enter the campus from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Savai students, ia ave assignments i o ele kako Fesola'I le makeki sa le longa. You can email me your questions, queries, gisi me fia malamai, but do not send your assignment by email. Well, that's our lecture for today. Hope you will learn. Mauava goe study a pair. Stay well and keep well. E yei students here, mau mai emaili, I'm okay. I may say ko medical certificates, ko kele o ko wa afia i le whaamai, ia stay well and keep well and look after yourselves. Ia a malolosi, attempt all exercises, study tasks, ka waku, mawhaile assignment. Ia, whaftaile au nagal NUS TV. That's our lecture for today. I will see you again in Asotofi. Have a good day, everyone. Maguia Gayaso.